Hi, fifth grade. Today we are starting Unit 8, which is over measurement and geometry. And as we go through this unit, we are going to do some of the lessons a little bit differently. We'll be combining some, or we might go out of order a little bit, just to make sure we touch on the most important things first. So today we are actually doing lessons 8.1 through 8.3. So 8.1, 8.2, and 8.3 all together in a group. And it is all over converting metric units. So we're going to put it all together because it all goes with the same thing. Other countries measure using the metric system. That is different than how we measure. So we have to use both. We have to know how to use the metric system and what we use, which we will talk about later, because every other country measures in a different way than us. So this metric system that we are talking about is how all the other countries measure. They don't use feet or inches, or they don't use miles or pounds or gallons, things like that we hear to measure things. They don't use those. They use the things that are on this chart. So we're going to talk about those today. Now, this chart tells me everything that I need to know about the metric system, which is pretty nice. However, it's kind of hard to remember if we're just looking at this chart. It seems super confusing. So there's a little saying that we can remember so that we know all the order of the things for the metric system. And it goes King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. Now, kind of a silly saying, but if we remember that, we'll remember that the K comes first and then the H and so on and so on and so on. And if I remember the order, then I have the chart right there in front of me. So King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk helps me remember the order of the metric system. Now, obviously, each one of those letters stands for something. I'm going to start right here at by. That's the very middle, and that's the base measurement. So we have meters. That's like if we're measuring how long something is. We have liters. That's like if we're measuring a liquid. So they don't have like gallons of milk. They have liters. And then grams, which is how much something weighs. So they don't use like pounds, they use grams. So those are the base measurements. They come in the middle. Then each one of these letters is something we can add on to the base. So for instance, the K is for kilo. So we have kilometers, kiloliters, or kilograms. So we can add this in front of any of these base words. The H stands for hecto, so we have hectometers, hectoliters, hectograms. Deca is this D, decameters, decaliters, decagrams. This D is deci, so decimeters, deciliters, decigrams. Now, these two get a little bit tricky because they're both a D. The way that I remember it is the A comes before the I. In the alphabet, A comes before I. So deca has to come before deci. That's how I remember. A comes before I. Then we hear this one a lot. Centa. So centimeters, centiliters, centigrams. And we also hear the M a lot. Millimeters, milliliters, milligrams. So we can take any of these and put it on front of this word to make a new form of the measurement. One more thing that's important to know is these measurements go from biggest to smallest. So kilo, like kilometers, that's the biggest measurement. And then like millimeters, is the smallest. If you're thinking of like a mile, kilometers is like their mile. That's a long, long, long ways. That's really big. Millimeters is like the size of a freckle. Very, very, very small. So they go from biggest to smallest. Now, we get to use this chart to answer all of the questions about the metric system. So once we remember King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, I can easily answer the questions using that chart. So let's see how to do that now. We have 57 meters, and they would like for us to switch it to kilometers, KM. So 57 meters. Meters is right here. And I want to change it to be kilometers, which is going to be over here. I need to count how many hops it takes me to get there. So I'm starting at meters, and I have to hop 1, 2, 3 hops it took me to get there. And notice I'm going this way. I'm going to the left. That's going to be important. Meters to kilometers, 3 hops to the left. However many hops I make and in what direction is the same thing I'm going to do to the decimal point in my number. Now, 57 does not have a decimal. Remember, if it doesn't have one, it's always at the back. So put your decimal there. And then I have to do the same. I hopped 3 times this way. That's what I do with my decimal. 1, 2, 3. I have an empty loop, so I fill it with a 0. So in kilometers, that would be 0.057. Whatever I do on my chart, I do the same thing with my decimal. Let's do a few more and you'll get the hang of it. So I have 31. I'm going to go ahead and add my decimal because now I know I'm going to be moving that decimal. So let's just put it there at the back. We are starting at millimeters, so put your finger there. And we are going to meters. So start at millimeters and we have to hop to meters. 1, 2, 3 hops. And we're going this way, so I go the same way with my decimal. 3 hops to the left. 1, 2, 3. Fill in my empty loop. So this would be 0.031 meters. However I hop on my chart is the same way that I hop with my decimal. I have to do the same number and the same direction. Okay, let's try the next one. We have 9.2, so there's already a decimal there. I don't need to add it. We are starting at meters, and we are going to centimeters. So I'm just going to hop with my finger this time. Meters to centimeters. 1, 2 hops, and this time I went to the right. 2 hops to the right. So it's the same thing with my decimal. 1, 2 hops. Fill in my empty loop. So I have a 9, 2, 0. Now, if the decimal point is at the end, we don't need to add it because 920.0 is exactly the same. It's just like 920. So if the decimal point's at the end, I'm not even going to worry about putting it. That would be 920 centimeters. Okay, let's try a few more. Make sure you're paying close attention so that you know how to use this chart when you get to your assignment today. 8.6, so already a decimal there. I'm starting at kilometers, km, so find your K. And we are going to meters, just the regular M, which is right here at the base. So 1, 2, 3, and notice I was hopping to the right, so I need to do the same with my decimal. 3 hops to the right. 1, 2, 3. Any empty loops always get a 0. So 8, 6, 0, 0. My decimal was at the end, so I don't need to worry about adding it in there. But I could put a comma if I wanted to. That is 8,600 meters. Alrighty, the next one, 483. Doesn't have a decimal, so I'm going to go ahead and add it as I look at it. I'm starting in centiliters, and they want me to go to liters, which is right here. So 1, 2 hops, and notice I went to the left, so I need to do the same with this decimal. 2 hops in the same direction would give me 4.83. I'm just moving my decimal the same amount of hops and the same direction as I do on the chart. All right, the next one, 4,873. Now, if that comma confuses you, rewrite the number without a comma. And remember, the decimal is always at the end if it's not there. So there's my number. That way the comma is not confusing to me. I'm starting in liters. And they want me to go to kiloliters, so to the K. 1, 2, 3 hops, and notice I was going to the left, so I need to do the same with my decimal. 3 hops in the same direction would give me 4.873. All right, I'm going to do a few more here, and then we're going to look at some on the back of this page before you start your assignment. 5.68. So already has a decimal. I'm starting in kilometers, or kiloliters, sorry, that's an L. Start at a K, and I'm going to plain liters, which is a base measurement right here. So 1, 2, 3 hops. Notice I was going in this direction 3 hops. So 1, 2, 3. Fill in with zeros where we need to. 5, 6, 8, 0. And I don't need that decimal because remember it's at the back. I don't have to put it. And then add my comma if I want to. The next one, 49, does not have a decimal, so I'm going to add it at the back as I read it. Liters is where I'm starting, and I'm going to milliliters. 1, 2, 3 hops. Notice I'm going this way, so same with my decimal. 1, 2, 3 hops. Whoa, lots of empty loops, so fill those in. You should get 49000. No decimal because it was at the back, so that equals 49,000. It's quite a few milliliters. Let's do one more here. This one has a comma, so I'm going to rewrite it without just so that I don't get confused. Put my decimal at the end. Then I noticed they started in milligrams, and they would like for me to go to grams. So hop from milligrams to grams. 1, 2, 3. Notice I was hopping this way, so my decimal moves the same way. 1, 2, 3. 8.240 or 8.24 would be the same. That 0 on the end is not going to matter if it's a decimal like that. Those would be the exact same amount. Both of those are $8.24. So if it's multiple choice, you might see it without the 0. It means the exact same thing. Okay, there's a few more down here, but I'm going to go ahead and skip those. I think we got the hang of that kind of. Let's look at the other page before you work on your assignment for today. Now, this is the page we're doing today in class as a review from what we did the other day in class before we start our assignment today. So first we're going to review our skills that we already know how to do. Let's use our saying to rewrite that chart at the top. So we have king. Oops, hang on, my lead is messed up in my pencil. There we go. King Henry died by, I always write out by, drinking chocolate milk. So there's all my letters. Now I need to make a few little extra marks here. Remember, A comes before I. So this has to be deca and this has to be deci. And then remember, by is those base measurements. So those are grams, liters, meters. All 3 of those options, grams, liters, and meters. Now I have that same chart that I had, we were just working on there. I just recreated it for myself. I can either look back on my other one or I can recreate it for myself. So same thing when you get to your assignment, you can either pull up the video and pause it on that chart, or you could just rewrite it for yourself and then use that to make your hops. Okay, let's do a few more converting here. So 877, I'm going to add my decimal at the back because it doesn't have one. Centimeters, so that's going to be at the C. And I'm going to meters, which is a base measurement right here. So 1, 2 in this direction. So same thing with my decimal, 1, 2 in that direction, 8.77. Let's try another one, 8.6 already has a decimal. Liters, so that's a base measurement, to centiliters. So 1, 2, and I went in this direction. So same thing with my decimal, 1, 2 in that direction. Fill in my loops, 860. I do not need the decimal because remember it's at the back. It would mean the same thing. 25 does not have a decimal. Put it there as I read it. Milligrams, so starting at milligrams, and I'm going to grams, which is a base measurement. So milligrams, 1, 2, 3 hops in this direction. Same thing with my decimal, 3 hops in that direction. So that would be 0.025. Now the next 3 are asking us to do something a tiny bit different, but we're still using that chart. Remember, this chart helps us with everything. So 294, my decimal would be right here, milligrams. Now they're telling me what they got. I have to figure out the label. So I'm going to look. Well, in order for the decimal to move there, they had to move it 1, 2, 3 spots to the left. So I'm going to start at milligrams. That would be the M. And I need to move it 3 spots to the left because that's what they did with their decimal. 1, 2, 3 spots put me right here at the base. So I have to decide G, L, or M. Well, they were in grams, so I'm going to use the G. So my label would be a G. Okay, let's try another one of those. So 75 doesn't have a decimal, add it there. Then I'm looking, they got their decimal to go here, so they had to move it, let's see, 1, 2, 3 spots again, and they went 3 spots to the left. So they started at grams, so go there, and I moved my decimal 3 spots to the left. So I do the same thing on my chart. 1, 2, 3, that would be a K. And then we're in grams, so we have to stick the G behind it. You can't just put the K by itself. It has to go with one of those base letters. And we were already with the G, so kg, kilograms. All right, one more like that. Here's where they started, and here's where they ended. Remember, the decimal would be right here behind the 2. So let's see how they had to move that. They would move it 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. So I need to do the same thing on my chart. They were in grams to start, so start at grams. And I said I need to move it 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3, so that's at the M. And then we need to put the G behind it because we are in grams, milligrams. Okay, so still using that same chart. All right, I want to look at a few word problems with converting, and then I will let you get started on your assignment. It says, if Sabrina's hair grows 1.1 centimeters every month, how many meters should her hair grow in 8 months? All right, so her hair grows 1.1 centimeters every month, and we want to know about 8 months. So I'm going to times it by 8. Well, 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times this one is 8. And then I have one number behind my decimal, so my decimal point would go right there. So her hair grows 8.8, and she was measuring in centimeters. Now, that's the math part, but I have to read it carefully. It says, how many meters could her hair grow? So now that I've done the math part of the word problem, I have to convert it because they want to know how many meters. So now it's a conversion problem just like we were doing up here. So we are going from centimeters to meters. Let's look at our chart. Centimeters to meters. 1, 2 hops to the left. So I have to do the same thing with my decimal down here. 2 hops, and I went to the left on my chart, so I do the same down here. So it would be 0.088 meters would be my final answer. So when I have word problems with measurement, I have to be careful. Do the math first and then see if you need to make a conversion before you give your final answer. Let's do one more here, and then we will get started on your assignment. Pascal wants to ride his bike to school 3 days a week. His house is 2.58 kilometers from his school. How many meters will he ride in 1 week? All right, so his house is 2.58 kilometers from the school. So that's how far he's going to ride. And he's going to ride that 3 days a week. So I need to times it by 3 to see how far he will ride in 1 week. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 more is 17. And then 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 more would be 7. There are 2 numbers behind my decimal. So 7.74. And I'm looking back up. He was measuring in kilometers because that is the label right behind my number. So KM. Now I'm going to check. The question says, how many meters will he be riding? So I'm going to have to convert this to see how many meters it equals. So we're going from kilometers to meters. I'm going to go back up to my chart. Kilometers to meters. 1, 2, 3 hops to the right. So same thing with my decimal. 1, 2, 3 hops to the right would be 7740. Put my comma. Remember, I don't need a decimal because it's at the back. So my final answer is 7,740 meters. Remember, I have to do the math first, then see if I need to make a conversion for my final answer. Alrighty, you're going to need this chart for your assignment. So if you need to go back to the beginning of the video and pause, feel free to do that. And then you are free to start on your assignment. Do your best, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.